second time in a four. Welcome to scorching Sentul. We thought Malaysia was muggy, well Indonesia is almost unbearable. The temperature has been reaching over 35 degrees. It is absolutely boiling here. There have been a few changes to the circuit since we were here in February. Plenty of resurfacing work means varying grip levels for the drivers to contend with. Joining me now is the Great Britain driver, Robbie Carr. Robbie, yourself and Ollie were pretty quick out there yesterday. You seem to have found a sweet spot with the car around Sentul.
No, the car's going really well. We've changed it slightly for today and we're looking forward to qualifying because we think we've got a good chance.
You didn't put in that many laps this morning. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, we're just working on the car for qualifying. We know from yesterday that we've got a good car for the race, and so working on it from qualifying, just doing little tweaks here and there just to help with the overall grip from the car.
We mentioned the temperature. It's unbearable, you know, walking up and down in the pit lane. What's it like for the drivers?
Oh, it's okay once you're driving because you don't really focus on it, but once you come back into the pits it's just like being in a little oven, and so it is quite warm out there, but taking lots of fluids on board, and so really looking forward to it.
Robbie, best of luck for the rest of the day. It could be a very good day indeed for Team Great Britain. Their nearest rivals are France. They do look as if they're back to their best. We'll see very shortly. Let the fight begin. Nestled in the Indonesian countryside, the Sentul circuit was opened in 1992 with the aim of putting Indonesia on the world map of motorsport. The circuit has hosted MotoGP, F3 and this, the second visit of A1GP. Multiple surface changes require extra concentration by drivers as grip levels vary. Let's hear from John Watson, who's behind the wheel of the A1GP car.
After crossing the start-finish line, turn 1 is facing you at over 160 miles per hour. Down to 4th gear on the entry and 5th gear on the exit takes you through the flat-out turn 2, the fastest corner at Sentul. Lots of overtaking chances into the bumpy turn 3, though too much commitment will see you in the gravel on the outside. Look for the surface changes in turn 4, tarmac to concrete and back to tarmac, and the battle for traction on the exit. Flat out through turn 5 and up to the S's, again bumpy under braking, and any overdriving is punished with poor track position and low exit speed. Turns 8 and 9 are a faster version of the S's, satisfying for the driver, but the aggressive track surface still needs to be considered. A short sprint up to turns 10 and 11, which are key to your lap time, as well as setting you up for any overtaking thoughts you may have upon entering the start-finish straight. The abrasive track surface and the monsoon season are sure to make for the most unpredictable races of the year.
Welcome back to the Sentul International Circuit in Indonesia. Just getting a check on what's going on at the moment as teams and drivers prepare for live qualifying. Tony Jardine with me in the studio. Tony, last year this race went down a storm with locals. How much does it mean to Sentul to host this event, do you think?
A lot. I mean, this is their next biggest event since they last had MotoGP, so this is a major event for them. And last year they turned out 46,000 of them, and they really enjoyed it, and they're expecting a big crowd again. Looking at Team China, that's Ho Pin Tung, who's taken over, and he's a young hotshot who's just won the German Formula 3 Championship, so high hopes for him. And a massive Chinese population in Indonesia as well will be rooting for this team, as well as the Indonesian team.
What about Team Indonesia? Home advantage, drivers live very close to the track. Have they got a good chance?
Ananda Mikula, he was very quick yesterday. He was right up there. I noticed this morning in practice session 3, he was about midfield. Now, he knows every inch of this track, so he should be up there. Let's see what happens.
OK, let's take you trackside. First of the day's qualifying sessions imminent. Our reporters Lee McKenzie and Simon Hill in the pit lane. Our commentary team, John Watson and Ben Edwards, will guide you through today's race action.
The 21 nations that are doing battle in qualifying are getting themselves ready here, and it's interesting to see that Team Australia will be the first car out on track, and it's green flag for Ryan Briscoe.
Ryan Briscoe lights it up, and it was very impressive at different points. Ryan Briscoe, particularly on Thursday's official practice session, suddenly towards the end of that session popped up a time which really seemingly came from nowhere, and the word from the pit lane was, well, that's just come from, we've just found that sweet spot in the setup. And again, Australia 6th quickest this morning. Ryan Briscoe first out on track, trying to take advantage of the clear track. No doubt confident that they've got a car which will give them an opportunity to start at the front of the grid, or near the front of the grid, rather than on some occasions this year much further down, which is uncharacteristic of a team led by Alan Jones.
That's right, yes, they haven't had the best of success. A lot of work still going on the South African car. Another new driver to A1GP in that car this weekend. It's Alan van der Merwe, former British F3 champion, and this is all quite last minute, I would say, to be making changes.
I just wonder, are they going to bother getting this car out or not? I mean, there's a lot of work going on there around the front suspension, and there may well have been something that they found with the car prior to the start. Now, they've got 4 qualifying sessions. They only have to do a time in 2 of them to get an aggregate time for their grid position. And if they do happen to miss one simply because they don't feel it's important enough to be under that level of pressure to get out in this session, they've still got 3 more to go.
Yeah, they may have a problem there. Less panic, certainly, down there at Team USA. Phil Keebler's been pretty fast throughout the weekend. He raced here earlier on in Season 1 at Sentul. But let's get on to our first flying lap of the day then. It's with Team Australia, with Ryan Briscoe, and let's see whether the experienced driver, an F1 tester in the past, IRL racer in the United States, a former F3 Euro Series champion, let's see if he can really get this Sentul track sorted.
Just notice with Ryan Briscoe, he's not the tallest of racing drivers, not many are these days, but just how low he's sitting in the car, that gives him 2 benefits. One, it allows a lot of air to get into that air intake to give the engine maximum power, but it keeps all the weight nice and low on the car. So Ryan Briscoe barely able to see the front wheel from where he's sitting. He knows where it is, he just generally points it in the direction of the corner and hope he gets it right.
Car looked very stable under braking there. Some of the cars have been very twitchy, but it looks like he's running a new set of tyres. I would imagine quite a lot of teams will use a new set in this first segment. They have 3 new sets to use along through the 4 segments of qualifying, so they have to do at least 1 segment of qualifying on an old set of tyres. Again, he's getting the grip, he's getting the traction here.
Car looks good, but of course we haven't seen anybody else on track, so what you see there doesn't necessarily give you an indication as to whether this is a fast time or a slow time, but the car looks to have a good grip. He's not sliding it, particularly on the exit coming out of turn 11.
Let's see what the time is. It's the fastest of the weekend so far. It's a 1:17.410.
Well, Alan Jones looks up, nods approvingly, and Ryan Briscoe has done what he was asked to do. First out on track, and a lap quicker than anyone has achieved all weekend. 1:17.410.
Italy across the line, and there's the gap. It's a biggish gap, a 1:18.0, 6/10 of a second. Italy have been struggling a bit, and it's regular incumbent Enrico Topicello who's driving for them. Now, here's a new driver, another new driver, Jaroslav Yanis has stepped in for Thomas Enger this weekend at the Czech Republic team, and he's been pretty fast. Let's keep an eye on him.
Also, he was a rookie. He got the benefit of that extra 1 hour, or as it happens, 50 minutes prior to going into official practice. So he's benefited from more track time and also more time on new tyres than many of the other regular competitors who don't qualify as a rookie.
Let's see what the time is. He's very experienced in Formula 3000 level of car. That's a good time. He's second quickest. Great debut so far for Yanis at 1:17.5. Australia, Czech Republic, Italy and Pakistan, the 4 nations to a set of time. But here's the man who took pole last time out in Malaysia.
Neil Yarni makes his way around the back of the circuit, comes up And this is coming up into turns. This is into turn 8 and 9. So this is the quicker of the two S's we talked about in that piece just prior to the start of going live. And again, it's important. First part, not so important. Second part, critical. You've got to get that power on. That little lock-up doesn't really hurt him too much. Just drag that unloaded inside wheel a little bit. Here it's important not to work the wheel too much, to make your exit as late as possible out of the corner to get maximum drive.
And here he comes across the line. It's fastest, and Neil Yarney goes quickest with a 1:17.2. He seemed to have been struggling a bit this weekend. I reckon they've dropped that rear wing a little bit, and he's got some straight line speed, and he was just locking up a bit under braking, as we saw. It was already turning, braking on the turn a little bit, just a little bit of a lock-up, but as you say, it didn't hurt him too much.
No. So top speed, in fact, is very variable, because people will do one thing for qualifying, and I suspect they're all going to run the maximum wing they've got. But for the race, of course, different scenario. You've got to get past people, and you might be slightly compromised in parts of the circuit, but you've got to find that balance. As you look at now Team USA, and they're under that lap time that we've seen from Switzerland. So Phil Keebler, Team USA, again a driver who's really just gelled with the Sentul circuit, and very quick at it.
Yeah, very good. He's coming up to the last couple of corners now, turns 10 and 11. He's had a couple of top 6 qualifying performances already this year. We're still in the early stages of this session, remember, but this could be the fastest time so far. Does he? Yes, he does. Great lap. 1:16.9. Now that matches Robbie Carr's fastest individual lap time from last year. That's a great lap from Phil Keebler.
And first time we've seen anybody here this weekend break into the woman at 16s. So we're seeing a performance that we saw in a number of races from Phil Keebler. Now he's got a car. As we go back to Ireland, they've been struggling all weekend. Richard Lyons, a newcomer to Team Ireland this weekend, displacing Michael Devaney in the regular race seat.
That's right, 27-year-old Richard Lyons, champion of Formula Nippon in Japan and a champion in GTs in Japan. That's where he's been making his career the last few years. He's a very, very capable professional racing driver. He's got the chance. He did the rookie session to get a bit of extra running on the Friday, but can he bring Ireland up into the top 10 in qualifying? That's what they're looking for him to achieve.
Well, looks good on the exit coming out of turn 17, and this is going to be his quickest lap of the weekend so far, 1:18.009. That'll bring a smile to Ireland. They've been glum-faced long enough.
Yeah, it puts them 5th at the moment, but we've only had 7 cars set a time so far. A lot of people going out early. There's technical director for Team Ireland, Andy Miller. They've made a lot of changes to the car through the course of the weekend. We're on board now with Brazil, and driving for Brazil is Tuca Rocha, who drove the car in the early races of the season. His teammate Rafael Matos drove the last 2. Now it's Tuca's turn once again to see if he can drag a performance out of this car for Team Brazil.
Into another turn 3, out of turn 4 again. Good drive, clean, no wasted energy as the car accelerates out of 4. Now through turn 5. All you do is you squeeze the steering wheel, and that takes you through that shallow curve. Up into 6. You've got to get your braking right here, because you've got to hug the curb and stay to the right, then get a dive across to make turn 7 a much, much cleaner exit.
Last year, when we were here with A1's first season, it was Christian Fittipaldi driving the Brazilian car. He struggled a little bit to get to terms with an A1GP car, but in fact he came through in the feature race to finish in 4th position. I'm sure they'd be pretty happy with a performance like that this weekend. Let's just watch the latter part of the lap now. See how neat and tidy he can be through here. He can be a bit ragged once or twice. Takes quite a tight line through the middle section of this corner.
You know, it's such a difference that a new set of tyres makes to a car around this circuit. When you see drivers going around with tyres that run 15, 20 laps, well, that's not a great time for Tuca Rocha. 7th place, 18.8, as Emerson Fittipaldi, who turns up, we didn't see him yesterday, Emerson here to support Team Brazil. And that'll be a disappointment, I think, for Brazil. They're just ahead of Lebanon and Pakistan, but behind Italy and the rest.
That's right. Makes you wonder whether maybe they used their scrub set of tyres for that first run. Looking here at the Netherlands, where can Jeroen Bleekemolen, a race winner this year, go? He goes 3rd. Good effort that from Bleekemolen. Race winner in Beijing. Renger van der Zande there, the rookie driver who drove. Oh, and Brazil's taking a wild ride on his slowdown lap. That's a bit odd.
Well, that's a bit careless, frankly, because that's down at turn 3 and 4. I don't know why. You should ever look at again. Cars going off track, dragging gravel and whatever else off the front, back onto the racetrack. And those guys, now here's the onboard of what happened. As we go now live with Mexico, Salvador Duran.
He's one to watch. Mexico's been very fast this weekend. Can Salvador Duran? No, not quite. Look how close he is to the USA's time. 13 thousandths of a second slower, but I reckon that's what we're going to see a lot of. There's Piers Maserati, team manager for Team Mexico. Very good first effort by Salvador Duran.
Right, let's look again and see what Brazil did. I mean, what was Tuca Rocha doing? I mean, this is a slowing down lap. He missed the the apex of the corner by a country mile. And even in Brazil, they would do it in kilometres. I'd tell you, a Brazilian kilometre, he missed that apex. He drives off the racetrack. He then makes his way around the perimeter. He then comes back onto the racetrack, admittedly not on the line, but he will leave residue all over the racetrack on the exit.
So a bit of a tough call there. Let's see what Indonesia is doing. They go 7th quickest, 7th fastest for Ananda Mikkola on his first run. Not a bad effort, 17.9.
That's a full second quicker than he went this morning, so clearly the new tyre is worth about a second, maybe 1.2 of a second. The grid's going to be very, very close here. We've seen throughout the practice official and unofficial practice sessions, grid's very close.
So we've got Marina Serpato there and Tinton there as well on the outside. Let's look at Germany. So Germany now, look, he's up by 0.4 of a second on the first split.
But that car ahead of him is going to be a problem because he needs to get clear as he comes up to turns 6 and 7. He needs to get rid of the car ahead of him and not let it come into play. It is Indonesia and Ananda Mikkola, not always the easiest. Here's again a review of what happened in turn 4 on the exit. How much racetrack do you need? More than there is available. He took the grass as well.
He's got so much confidence, this young man. He's still up by 0.4 of a second. Nico Hulkenberg, who was the star in the wet in Malaysia last time. He won at Zandvoort this year. He's been on the pace at every track we've been to. And once again, he looks as though he's going to be the man to beat in the early stages of qualifying.
And Ananda Mikkola got out of his way, gave him the clear racetrack. Now it's the dash to the line. And this could be a time in the middle 16s.
Germany across the line. Yes, he goes fastest. A 1:16.6. Fastest lap we've ever seen here at Sentul. Look at David Sears. Even the team are mighty impressed by Nico Hulkenberg. Talking to race engineer Rob Creswell there. And they're fairly satisfied with that first run.
Team GBR, Robbie Carr. What is the Brit capable of doing? He's got an awful lot to do to match that 1:16.6 from Germany. Robbie Carr. He's got the capacity to be fast. It's 0.2 of a second down. He's got that ability to be quick in a single flying lap. So necessary in qualifying. If you don't have that ability in your armour, then you'll never ever get qualifying well, particularly in a racetrack like this where everything's going to be so close.
So he was pole sitter here last year, and his mark from last year has now been beaten by Team Germany. Let's see where this puts him. Germany, USA, Mexico, currently top 3. Can he squeeze into that top 3? He could do. Yep, he goes second. Good last sector there by Robbie Carr. So it's Germany first, Great Britain second. That's how they are in the points, and that's how they are at the moment in qualifying. USA third, Mexico fourth, Switzerland fifth, the Netherlands in 6th place, Australia 7th, Czech Republic 8th, Indonesia 9th, Ireland in 10th. 15 cars have actually qualified in this session so far, and that means we've still got 6 to set a time.
Well, we're just seeing China on a lap, gone through the first sector, coming up down to the second sector. So for Ho Ping Dong, his first outing in a A1GP car, replacing Frankie Cheng, who's been the incumbent driver since the instigation of the second series of A1GP. He makes his way around. Oh, and he got it wrong really in the beginning of that corner, and it was wrong on the exit, caught the grass on the outside. So he's going to lose well. He's a second, virtually, effectively 0.9 of a second down in that second sector.
A few quick cars still to be seen, though. New Zealand, South Africa and France has just gone out as well. So we've got some very rapid... Oh, a bit of a lock up again. He locked up this morning and he actually wore a hole through his tyre. He was locked up for so long.
Well, it's, a lot of pressure for a young man, maybe never having competed in a qualifying session, which is about single flying laps. And no doubt the pressure from the team expecting him to do something spectacular. Well, he's inside the top 10, currently 9th.
Yeah, it's not bad. He's ahead of Indonesia and Ireland. New Zealand will be fast, though. 1:16.9, that puts him second. Yep, New Zealand are fast. Second place for New Zealand. It's Germany, New Zealand, Great Britain, USA. But watch out, we've still got Malaysia. South Africa's just popped up in 6th place. Good effort from Alan van der Merwe. His first full qualifying run in an A1GP car.
Alex Young for Malaysia, almost the last car out on track. France is that last car out on track, so France is on an out lap. This is a flying lap from Alex Young, and is he working hard? I tell you, this is the hardest Alex Young has had to work in a long time to keep that car pointing in the right direction. And look at the amount of hand movements. Watch the car over the bump. It does not look a comfortable ride for Alex Young at all.
No, it doesn't look like he's got it as he likes it. He's so smooth when the car's right for him. It's not right for him. He's 11th. He's nearly a second off the pace. They haven't got that car working well here, and he's fighting it. That isn't his normal style at all. Now, what about France? France is on a fast lap at the moment. This is a replay, can see the moment, a bit sideways there, gathered it together well, but he doesn't want to be losing traction like that on the exit of corners.
No, they've simply not got the car set up. We've seen other cars much more compliant, certainly not moving around anywhere near so much as the Malaysia car here as we go to France.
Yeah, this is the one to watch, John, because Germany might be fastest, but France, who were race winners in the sprint race here last year, they qualified in second place, and Nicolas Lapierre was behind the wheel then. He's behind the wheel again. Let's see the split. Well, he's down by 2/10 on Germany.
Yes, he wasn't up on that first sector, and the second sector was also fractionally down. So Nicolas Lapierre has not found the magic that we've seen him so much that France dominated last season A1GP.
It's still going to be a fast lap, though. It may not be the fastest time, but remember, Great Britain could be under threat in third, USA in fourth, Mexico in fifth. He's going to be in there somewhere. So let's see where this puts Nicolas Lapierre. Cross the line, he goes fourth. It puts him just behind Great Britain, just ahead of USA.
And the top four covered by less than 0.2 of a second. So for Nicolas Lapierre, that was interesting. He had a look at it. But the domination from Germany, Nico Hulkenberg, was clear for all to see, followed very closely by his sister nation, New Zealand.
Canada still on a fast lap. Let's see what Sean McIntosh can do. Canada really want to be looking for a top qualifying performance here from McIntosh, the race winner here at Sentul in the feature race last year, which he won from starting at the very back of the grid. It was a remarkable race. He did lots of overtaking. The safety car worked to his advantage as well, and it was a fantastic victory for Sean McIntosh. And now he's got to dial it all in and be fast in qualifying. This lap will still count. The checker flag might be out. Let's see where this puts him in the order. Across the line he goes. 9th place for Canada, just behind Switzerland and just ahead of the Netherlands. So I think that's everybody with their first run in the bag. It's Germany fastest, New Zealand second, Great Britain third, then France, the United States in 5th place, Mexico in 6th, then South Africa, and that's the top rookie performances by South Africa. That's Alan van der Merwe in 7th. Switzerland, pole sitter from last time, only down in 8th place. Johnny Reid looks pretty happy, he's second at the moment. Canada 9th, the Netherlands in 10th place. That's how the top 10 looks at the moment. And once again, we're seeing those David Sears engineered cars of Germany and New Zealand setting the pace in qualifying.
Well, it is early days. We've only had one of 4 qualifying segments, and already we're seeing those two nations, Germany fastest alongside is New Zealand. We'll just think back to how we were in Brno with second round of the A1 series in the Czech Republic. Those two drivers front row of the grid. There was pole position to New Zealand that day, and there was Nico Hulkenberg alongside, and of course they never got to the first corner because there was that incident, the clash between those two drivers. They clashed again in Malaysia, and it was a very unhappy Johnny Reid who had confronted Nico Hulkenberg. But the young German, he's got to focus, he knows what he can do, he knows what he needs to do, and he knows how to get there.
Absolutely right. There's a little bit of work now going on in the teams. You can see how Robbie Carr was back in there with James Robinson discussing what they need to change to the car, and Anna Mikkola currently just studying the times, and there the guys looking after the German team, well, they must be pretty satisfied with things at the moment because they're on provisional pole, but there are 3 more qualifying segments to go. And remember, you have to add 2 quick times together. It's not enough in A1GP to do just 1 quick time.
The Sentul International Circuit, the venue for the 5th round of A1GP. Session 2 of 4 of live qualifying just about to get underway. Germany at the moment, though, continuing to impress. Can the home hope and Anna Mikkola change that? Let's take you back trackside. Your commentators, John Watson and Ben Edwards.
There we are with a view of new driver for Team Ireland this weekend. It's Richard Lyons, making the most of his experience in running in the Japanese single-seater championships in recent years. He was very competitive, top driver in the UK before he moved over to Japan, second in the Formula Palmer Audi Championship of 1999, and then after that really moved over to Japan, has made a strong career for himself over there. Green flag has now been waved on the start of this second session. Looks as though Australia may go again fairly early. They were first out in the first segment of qualifying, but this time it looks as though it's going to be China to do that.
Yes, I mean, ordinarily we do not expect to see front runners come out at the opening of a session because they always feel that the racetrack is better towards the end of one of these 4 15-minute segments. We saw Australia come out earlier, they did a strong job, but eventually ended up 11th, being eclipsed by Germany and the rest. So this time we see China out first, followed by Pakistan. Noor Ali continuing his adventure in A1GP. And really, learning all about such a competitive international single-seater series. It's a big, big step up for Noor Ali. But, give him time, give him a chance, and no doubt he will find the improvements that he's looking for.
Absolutely, and we're waiting to see other cars come out. I would imagine quite a few cars might be on old tyres for this second segment. They may do a second run on the tyres they used earlier on. Depends what they think the weather's going to do. It is a little bit cloudier around, and if they think there's any chance of rain, they may try and run through all their new sets of tyres as quickly as possible. Well,
certainly, there is more cloud coming over the circuit, and the wind, it varies between being virtually nothing. It's beginning to pick up a little bit again, and all that is the contribution to this weather pattern that lies over this Southeast Asia for about a month and a half, 2 months, and that's the best of it, believe me. What we're seeing in front of us is not as good as that. And I would think within the next hour, for sure, we'll see the beginnings of that monsoon rain for about 2 hours. But hopefully by that time, everybody will have qualified and we'll know the grid, who's going to be in pole position. Germany looks awfully good. New Zealand looks about as good. But never discount Robbie Carr and Team GBR. France, USA, Mexico. Well, where do you stop?
Absolutely, there's some top teams there, and we're going to have to keep a close eye on them all to see what they can do. Out there at the moment, though, it is China with their rookie driver for this weekend, and we'll just have to see how he adapts. He was saying to me that it is a very different car to drive to the Formula 3 car he's been racing in Germany. Of course it is. It's much more powerful, it's much heavier, and it doesn't have, in relative terms, as much downforce as an F3 car.
No, I think the biggest difference he will find is that it is a much more physical race car. It is a heavier car to drive. It is a heavier car anyway in terms of its static weight. But it's a car that is a physical race car, and it's about confidence. It's the ability to know when you turn the steering wheel that the car will stay with you. And the confirm that every race driver has is that they turn the wheel, are they going to get into a situation where they lose control? And if you haven't got that confidence, you will not find the speed. But, well, for China and Ho Ping Tong, it's a big learning curve. He's into a second qualifying session. I'm sure he'll feel more comfortable as each qualifying session goes through. Absolutely. It's all about track time and about experience. And the team will be hoping that they can help him as well. Rob Arnott, their engineer, just trying to guide him through it a little bit, I would think. Let's just see what it is if he crosses the lines. He goes fastest because he's the first to put 2 laps together. But he also has improved his time. He's found 0.6 of a second on that second run. Now, I just said the more runs he gets, the more confidence he will also get in the car. Remember, when you're doing these runs, you're doing them with either new tyres. Most teams will have 3 sets of new tyres, and then you will use the best of the rest, and you try to keep that set to run it when you have to. As we now watch what Neil Yarney and Team Switzerland, a disappointing first run from Switzerland all the way down in 10th place. But Neil Yarney, a man more than capable of dragging a time out, the experience and his speed. Just remember that these are cumulative times. Yeah, the time at the bottom there for Switzerland starts at his fastest lap from earlier on. Bit of sliding around. It was a 1:17.2 he did earlier on. He's up on China's combined time. That's what it means. He's up on China's combined time. You would expect that, really. What he's got to do is drag a single individual lap time out here that's something comparable to... Ooh, that was a big lock-up. Yes, it was. That's into turn 3. And he was about 0.6 of a second quicker in the first qualifying over China. And then China's picked up that time point, so they're in effect at some point fairly similar. But you'd expect Neil Yarney, but he's got a car ahead of him. Again, the lock-up. We've seen a lot of locking up from cars on the unloaded wheel, and obviously engineers looking at setting their cars up pretty stiff in the front, so as the car turns into the corner, that unloaded wheel just grabs and drags it in. And again, that right front dragging, and you don't want to do that. We've seen one car this morning actually wear its way through the rubber, through the canvas, and ended up with a hole as big as your fist. Yeah, that's right. So he's got to be a bit wary, although the new tyre should be able to withstand that treatment. He does go quickest, but by only a tenth. What is his individual time? It was actually slower by 0.3 of a second, and equally 0.3 of a second slower than China. So China and Switzerland, although the positions are Switzerland's quicker, but the gap between those two nations has really shut down. Probably, though, on his tyres that he ran on the earlier session, I would think, and maybe that contributed to the amount that he was locking up as well, because the grip wasn't quite there that he had on the previous lap on his new tyres. So Indonesia now, Ananda Mikkola. I wonder if he's gone out on the used tyres. Probably quite likely to have done, but 1 or 2 nations might decide to throw throw the dice here and try and use their tyres earlier than others. He's about to cross the line. Indonesia up to 3rd with a lap time quite similar. Quite similar, so one would assume that was the same set of tyres he ran in the first qualifying. And as we're speaking, in fact, there's a gap in the cloud. The sun's now streaming down all over the racetrack, and for those that are sitting in the pit, probably they didn't want that sun to come out, because normally when the sun comes out, things slow down fractionally. Riding on board once again with Team Brazil here, and Tuca Rocha
who after the first session of qualifying found himself down in 19th place, quite a long way down. I would have expected him to do slightly better. Maybe he used the older tyres early. We'll see. We'll get an idea because we'll get a comparison lap on this one and we'll see if he's much quicker on this particular lap. Certainly needs to try and pull some...
Oh, Ireland have gone off, and that's a big off. I think that's down at turn 4. Richard Lyons has gone off track and he's caught the barrier. The left front of the car is in the tyre wall, and that looks, well, I mean, how bad is it going to get for Ireland? They brought Richard Lyons in as to try and lift the team, but that looks like Ireland are going to start at the back of the grid.
That's bad news. Let's see what happened here, John. Let's try and catch where it is and what went wrong.
Oh, I think it is turn 3. I'm almost certain it is. Watch for the concrete in turn 4. Maybe it's not. In fact, I think that could well... There it is, turn 3. And Richard Lyons, a passenger there, he pulls his hands off the steering wheel and puts them in front of his face. And Richard Lyons, well, he's saying, push me back, push me back. I mean, clearly there must be damage to the front suspension as Ireland stand on the pit wall and think, well, what are we doing? Is this going to see a red flag, or is that car considered to be safe enough off the racetrack to allow this qualifying session with how many minutes of it remaining? Some just under 8 minutes now remaining. It is a red flag, so I think wisely race director has deemed it safest to get that car. It doesn't look, in fact, that there is an awful lot of damage to the car.
No, he
may well have gotten away with it. He may have just gone in very... He's driving the car away. Well, I mean, talk about the luck of the Irish. Well, Richard Lyons, it was a driving error on his part that saw him crash into that tyre barrier. There is no nose remaining in the wing and the supports of the wing, but more critically, has there been any damage to the front suspension? But at least Ireland have got a chance to breathe again, because that car is going to be driven back to the pits and the engineers can get stuck in. And with that red flag, of course, he's the cause of it. He's also got to respect it and make his way back to the pits as slowly as possible. But at least Ireland now can get that car prepared, get a new nose out, and have a quick look around the suspension, particularly the left front. And Richard will no doubt sheepishly say, oh, I don't know what happened.
And you see how he's braking there, just trying to get the stones out. That was the view.
Well, he never even made the corner. He was off before he got to the corner. There his hands come up, and there is a tweak on that left front suspension. You saw the right wheel was pulled round to the left, so it might mean there's a steering arm or some part of the suspension has been damaged. That will need to be replaced, but there's time sufficient for the remaining 2 sessions. Remember, we're red flagged, but the clock's still ticking away. The time does not stop even under a red flag, so we've now just got 6.5 minutes of this second qualifying session remaining, and we've got the bulk of the field have still yet to go out.
Yeah, there might be a bit of cleaning up to do down there where the gravel was pulled back on track, but hopefully they'll be able to get the session up and running fairly quickly. Saw quite a few cars going off at this section in this morning's practice, but nobody made it as far as the tyres. That's the first time we've seen anyone at that section this weekend get to the tyres and take the whole front wing assembly off the car. You can see the mounting there dangling at a very strange angle. Hopefully the team's going to be able to get the car repaired and send him back on his way. And the session has restarted, and it's Germany that's going to be one of the first out. I think he's on used tyres, just glancing out of our commentary box window. Looked to me as though he's on old tyres. I don't think there was that sheen that you expect to see on a new, nice, shiny set of tyres.
And
but Great Britain...
Yes, Robbie Carr for Great Britain also following, and these drivers, particularly Nico Hulkenberg, with first car around, onto a track that has got gravel dragged onto it.
I think Kerr is on new tyres. From what I could see as he went past our commentary box, Mexico's on old tyres, but that means that Great Britain could be the one to watch here, because it looks as though they've gone for the new set of tyres in this second segment.
So we watch Australia as Briscoe makes his way out into the track, and Italy with Enrico Toccacella. So we've now got just coming up to 5 minutes before the session concludes, and we're going to see a very, very busy racetrack, and it'll be Nico Hulkenberg who will be the first car around, and he is no doubt going to be confronted with traffic exiting the pit lane. And of course that pit lane just prior to the entry into turn 4, a quick entry, a 4th gear corner, big commitment going into it. You don't want to be committed to going into it and having to deal with traffic leaving the pit lane.
There is Robbie Carr for Great Britain in the first segment of qualifying. He set the 3rd fastest time, but he's the pole sitter here from the last time A1GP visited this Sentul track, and he now wants to try and claim that back. Looked to me as though he's on new tyres. I just saw France go out there on old tyres, so France are not going for their second set of tyres yet. I think Germany was on old tyres, but let's watch him now on his second flying lap. He did his first lap, of course, in the first segment. You only get 1 flying lap per 15 minutes. And now he's on to the second one, and with a tyre that's probably had its best running so far, unlikely to match the time he did earlier.
Well, there's nothing less than total commitment from Nico Hulkenberg. Just get a glimpse. See, look at that.
Maybe it is a new tyre.
Well, I don't know if that's old tyres. I tell you what, that is impressive. Half a second of that first sector, and the car looks like it is absolutely planted to the racetrack. That's the simple thing that what's been going on with Germany, but in particular, it's in the hands of this young German. Didn't quite get there. Something went wrong there on the exit coming out of turn 7. But nonetheless, he's maintained the momentum up now to the more open of the two S's. Look, he's still got that half a second advantage. And that's over Switzerland, of course, not over his own previous personal best.
That's right. That's over the combined time of Switzerland. So, in fact, it may not be quite as quick a lap as the split times are showing. The individual lap itself, he's got the advantage already, remember, having set that quick early lap. Let's just see what this lap is going to be. It's going to put him first overall, but I'm not sure it's going to be quite as mega a lap as we thought. No, it's 17.
It's 9/10 of a second down, so clearly that was on those used tyres. But here, Team GBR, we'll know very quickly if this was a new tyre or an old tyre run.
Across the line goes Great Britain fastest, and it's a 1:16.7. That was a new tyre run, but worryingly for Great Britain, it wasn't quite as quick as Germany managed on their quick run in the previous segment.
Nicolas Lapierre for France. So Nicolas Lapierre coming around the back of the circuit through turn 7, then the acceleration up, and he looks very charged. I mean, he is motivated. He wants to get that position. Coming to Mexico, just bump up into second place, demoting Germany down to third, Switzerland to fourth.
Australia's just popped up to third. Good lap from Briscoe. He's in the 1:16s as well. Let's see what France does. They now go third. Push Australia down. A 1:17.2. That was on old tyres. Quick lap back from Nicolas Lapierre. He's still very much in the hunt for pole position here.
Well, that was a time when new tyre or used tyres, it sort of makes Germany 17.7 realise it wasn't as good as it looked.
So there's still time to be found here. South Africa across the line. They go third now with a 1:16.9. These lap times are going to be so close. They're separated by thousandths of a second. Now New Zealand, second quickest after the first segment of qualifying. Currently it's Great Britain on top of the tree. Can New Zealand go quicker here?
Now I wonder if Germany went on used tyres, would New Zealand in this sister operation have chosen to go for the new tyres? They will have seen what Germany did. They will have seen how quick the track is. Johnny Reid right on it as he comes through turn 4, now cuts through the almost straight line curve turn 5.
So let's see as he comes down to the second part of the lap. I think he's probably on used tyres, but we'll wait and see, get a bit more of an indication towards the end of the lap. Let's just take a look at that again.
Yeah, coming through turn 4, gets the car up from the tarmac onto the concrete, back onto the tarmac, runs the car right out to the very edge of the runoff area and clips a little bit of the grass, but the car, the attitude of the car looks good.
So up towards the last part, the last two corners. This is going to put New Zealand back up.
Malaysia, what's happened, Alex Young?
Yeah, he's been off and the car stopped. Malaysia didn't set a lap there, so they're trailing down at the bottom of the times along with Ireland. Across the line goes New Zealand. Does this put it puts them second? A 1:16.9. That was a quick lap from New Zealand.
I think New Zealand were on a new set of tyres because the car of Germany, Nico Hulkenberg, the sister car in effect to New Zealand because they run out of a common engineering operation. He was a second down, so it may be that the split within the team has gone in favour this occasion to New Zealand.
Let's see what happened here to Alex Young. Same place, was it, as we saw Richard Lyons? Yeah, I think so.
He just was too hot into the corner, ran too wide, and look, I mean, the car up in the air, bouncing, and again, what's on that racetrack? So it's been a disappointment for Malaysia. They're really struggling. Ireland and Malaysia are really the two surprises of the two sessions so far. They really are nowhere at the races today.
Waiting for USA now. USA are going to feature here. They were fifth after the first segment of qualifying. They've left it to the last moment of this second segment. Whether they're on new tyres or not, we'll find out in just a sec. Looks like a pretty good lap to me, this from Phil Keebler. Let's see where it puts him back up into the top 5. No, 8th place.
1 minute 17.8, and that was 0.9 of a second down on his first run. So again, clearly USA chose to run on that set of tyres. Canada, Sean McIntosh, again the last car to complete a lap. The checkered flag is out. He's allowed to complete this run because he is on track. Comes out and a good exit, nice, good drive off turn 11.
Let's see what this one is then for Sean. It puts him 8th now, a 17.3, about the same as he did in the first segment of qualifying. And they need to find a bit more pace than that to really show themselves. Canada's still the nation that has led more laps than anyone else in A1GP this year, but they need to convert that into a top qualifying performance here. Malaysia just being wheeled back. So the situation at the moment is Great Britain are on top, with New Zealand second fastest, Mexico third, South Africa fourth, France fifth, Australia sixth, then Germany, Canada, USA and Switzerland. But remember, some people did use new tyres in that session, others didn't. We've got 2 more segments of qualifying, and it's really only by the time we get to the end of segment 4, when everybody has used all of their new tyres at some point or other, that we get the clearest picture. The interesting aspect at the moment, though, John, is that Germany have the individual fastest lap time so far today, which was set in segment 1.
Yes, and in Germany you have to believe that 2 fresh sets of tyres available for qualifying 3 and 4 are going to be immediately back up and joining Great Britain, New Zealand, Mexico. A great run from South Africa. Alan van der Merwe doing a very good job indeed, standing in for Adrian Zalk, who wasn't available for this particular race. Robbie Carr back in Team GBR, and Robbie will be happy. Look at that smile on his face. Doesn't see often a smile on Robbie's face. And here we go back to Alex Jung. Well, the back end. He was too quick into the first part of this turns 3 and turn 4. And then he had a ride-on cowboy, Bronco style, through the gravel trap and gravel and whatever else. Lucky. Hope he hasn't got it.
Welcome back to A1GP Indonesia. The Sentul circuit in Indonesia playing host to A1GP this weekend. Classification of qualifying so far. This is how things look. It's Team GBR and Robbie Carr, who has pole at the moment. New Zealand and Johnny Reid in second. Mexico and Salvador Duran in third at the moment. Remember that Robbie Carr did have pole here last year as well. Can he do it again? Let's rejoin your commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards, their trackside.
No, it does seem to be okay. With the fears that the track is going to break up, it is very ready.
The next qualifying segment is due to get underway in just a few seconds here. Great Britain currently fastest outright from New Zealand, Mexico and South Africa. The green flag waves at the end of the pit lane, but this time, John, no one's in any rush to get out there.
No, and I mean, I think the usual scenario is that people realise that the end of a session is normally quicker than the start of a session. The track cleaners, as they used to be called, even they are reluctant to go out, but I think somebody will have to make a decision pretty quickly, because what is the worst scenario is to have all 21 cars, well maybe 20, because I don't know whether Ireland will be ready for a run in this third qualifying segment or not. Hunter-Reay is the man who's opted to take advantage of the clear track. He's got no pressure from anybody either ahead of him or behind, and all he has to do is go out. He's currently in 19th place, a cumulative time of 2 minutes 44. So for Hunter-Reay, again, this gentle progression to get to grips with the A1GP racing.
Jarek Jannes driving for Team Czech Republic. Now we're looking at Nico Hulkenberg, race winner here last season. He qualified second on the grid, just behind or alongside Robbie Carr, and then had a stunning first lap actually for Nicolas Lapierre, and fought his way into the lead of the sprint race, got past and took a fairly dominant win. That was actually his last victory in A1GP. France, of course, went on to dominate the series, although the latter stages, the wins were a bit harder to come by, and so that was the last victory that Nicolas Lapierre enjoyed.
Yeah, but what it illustrated here, particularly in that opening lap of the sprint race, was Robbie Carr from pole position, got the advantage, but three-quarter way round, coming out of turn 9, you could clearly see that France had a quicker race car, and he just gobbled up Robbie Carr's advantage, and then through those final 2 turns, 10 and 11, much quicker onto the straight, and just pulled out. It wasn't to do with anything to do, power or power boost, because both were using the buttons. It was simply his exit speed was maybe 5 or 8 miles an hour quicker than Team GBR, and he got alongside way before turn 1, and he took the lead comfortably and went on for victory.
So Hunter-Reay going on to a quick lap here, a hot lap. Both of his laps have been pretty close together, pretty consistent. 1:22.2 for the first lap, and then he did a 1:22.1 for his second flying lap. Just getting to grips with the A1GP car bit by bit, heading through first 2 turns, and now down towards the tricky turn 3, where we've seen a few offs in these sessions so far.
Yes, it's easy to outbrake yourself, because if you try to turn into turn 3, still on the brakes, what you saw happen to Alex Jung and Team Malaysia is what could happen to anybody. So that's a corner I feel that the advantage is not to go into the corner on brakes, to brake marginally earlier, and then just let the car roll through that corner part, turn 3, get yourself into position, and then get through 4. And well, Hunter-Reay slightly not really using the racetrack to his advantage. He went through turn 6, ran much too wide, then had to make a more acute turn to get through 7, and as a consequence of that, losing exit speed out of turn 7.
Into turn 8 here, and grabbing a gear mid-corner maybe. He's doing about 80 miles an hour in the middle of the second part of that. Then he heads down towards turn 10, back up to about 140 miles an hour before getting on the brakes. Tricky double right-hander here that goes on and on and on. Had a mishap, a bit of a spin in the practice session on Friday exiting this one, but he looks clean this time. Let's see whether he beats his own personal best so far. About to cross the line. Yeah, he's 1:21.7, so that's his quickest time of the 3 qualifying segments so far.
So he'll be happy with that time, and now he just needs to go out and match it in the final qualifying segment, which will be in about 20 minutes' time as we look into Mexico. Salvador Duran, somebody who really wants to get the monkey off his back from this racetrack. He ought to have been a winner here in the feature race some 10 months ago. He had the speed, he looked superb. He is a driver that can look hot in some racetracks, and as he wipes the sweat away from his face, that was a metaphor I didn't intend, but it's sometimes doesn't come together at every racetrack.
That's right. Malaysia, he did seem to struggle last time out, but this weekend he's been looking very fired up all weekend. His rookie driver, by the way, the Mexican rookie driver, was outstanding in the rookie session on Friday and set the 4th fastest time, which had everybody sort of looking in a bit of a surprise. Sergio Perez is obviously a talent for the future, and that's the great aspect of the rookie sessions on the Fridays of A1GP. We do get to see some exciting new drivers. We saw Oliver Jarvis set the outright fastest time for Team Great Britain, a man who's already raced, of course, and got on the podium at Beijing earlier on in this season. Now, though, we're beginning to see a bit more track action here.
Yes, we saw Lebanon go out first of all. Basil Shaban in the car this weekend. Basil carrying a very unpleasant little injury, and yesterday when he was walking into the garage under that, trying to get out of the monsoon, he slipped, his foot went under the door frame, and he did a major shoe job on his big toe, and he was walking around the hotel last night proudly saying, "Doesn't hurt, I'll drive," but it looked like a piece of chump steak.
Yeah, it didn't look very comfortable at all, but he's out there today driving for Lebanon. Brazil back out on track, way down in 16th position at the moment. They've got to drag something out of the bag here. It's been a little bit of a disappointing season so far. Look at Ireland, they've got their car ready.
Well, they did a great job, and clearly what we thought was going to be a car that wouldn't be out again on the racetrack, and on new tyres for Richard Lyons. So goes out, new nose on the car, clearly no damage or nothing that couldn't be quickly dealt with on that left front. So Richard Lyons back out on track. He's got a big job to do now, and that's to do something that Ireland have been expecting. That's get that car up to the end of the grid that they want to be at.
So here we are with Basil Shaban for Team Lebanon, the representative of the Arab nations in A1GP. And Basil Shaban raced here at Sentul back in February, so he's got a little bit of track knowledge to work with. And let's see now as he comes down to turn 3. The telemetry showing us what's going on. The gear down to 3rd, braking down to 2nd for the second part. This is turn number 4, and now a bit of a wiggle there as he accelerates down the next section.
Yeah, this is just with this curve, basically, it's just a squeeze of the steering wheel, and then he's up taking 6th gear, so then all the way down to 2nd gear for the first part. And Basil, Basil, the apex was about 6 feet to your right.
Well, a little bit wide perhaps, but he's still on track. He's still looking to try and improve on his best time so far. Now let's watch him down into the next section. A little bit quicker through here.
That was better. He got the car in earlier and he got the line. Now the exit out of turn 9. Again, keep the car as straight as possible. You've got to get the power on, but you don't want the back end wagging the tail of the dog, as they say. Up into turn 10. This is a double turn 10. Then you let the car out to the left and back, straighten the corner as much as possible. Turn 11. Good exit speed. Good lap time.
Yeah, let's hope so. See where it moves him to. He's 17th ahead of India and Pakistan at the moment, and that's his best lap so far, a 1:18.9. So he's improving, getting quicker and quicker. Still ahead of India, Pakistan, Malaysia and Ireland at the moment as well, because they had problems in that second qualifying segment.
So Ananda Mikula for host nation Indonesia coming up to complete his 3rd run. And, well, pretty confident. Nothing doesn't look good, doesn't look bad, just looks like it's a clean run for Ananda Mikula.
13th he is. That's his best time so far. The second off the outright pace of Germany.
Team USA, can they improve? Currently down in 9th place, Phil Keebler, and he goes second, 1:16.703.
That's one of the fastest times. You can see it's only 35,000 slower than Germany's fastest individual lap time of the day. And Team USA are in the battle for pole position. Ireland.
Richard Lyons, what can you do? You did one lap. That was 18.009. That's your quickest lap of the weekend. Now you've got a new set of tyres, a brand new nose cone. It's in your hands, my son.
Let's see what it is then. Pressure on. Richard Lyons, new driver for Team Ireland. Across the line he goes, and it pops him into 14th with a 1:17.7. They would love to be down in the low 17s or high 16s. It puts him into 14th, and he's only got the 1 run left to go.
Indeed he has, as Andy Miller on the pit lane. Well, he'll be pleased that we've seen an increase in time from Ireland, but it's been a long weekend again. They have not had the step forward that they thought they might do by bringing Richard into Team Ireland. And, well, we have to find out what he can do in that final segment, but one has to believe if he can get into the top 10, that would be a good result for Ireland this afternoon.
Great Britain fastest overall currently, with 2 segments of qualifying still to go, but the clock counting down on this third one. We're over halfway through this qualifying segment now. Weather conditions looking stable. It's hot, it's humid, but no chance, I think, at the moment of rain, so they've got a final segment to go. Germany out on new tyres, and let's see what they can do.
Well, and coming out behind, 2 cars behind, are Switzerland. So these 2 nations both capable of being in the front row of the grid. One of them certainly capable on form so far this weekend of taking that coveted pole position. Remember, a rolling start for the sprint race. That'll be on the right-hand side of the track, looking down towards turn 1.
Team Malaysia desperately need 2 good runs coming up here. They are struggling at the moment. Australia heading down pit lane, and Australia 6th after 2 qualifying segments. They're now 7th, as we've seen 1 or 2 people improve, most notably USA. And Nicolas Lapierre also coming to the point where he's got to get out there and show us what he can do. Still very much a major threat for pole. The lap he did last time out on used tyres was very impressive.
Well, 11 cars have still yet to go out on track, and we've just got 5.5 minutes of the session remaining. So we're going to see a very busy track indeed. And I just wonder the wisdom of some of the teams. I mean, GBR we're looking at right now, waiting until the last possible moment. Germany have taken the opportunity to go out on track when it is relatively free of traffic. And again, you know, it's all about teamwork. It's not just about what the driver does in the car, it's the time that the team choose to put you out. Looking into New Zealand, Johnny Reid currently down in 3rd place, USA eclipsing that 2nd place just a moment ago.
Right, here we go then. Germany on a new set of tyres. Let's see how quick he can be this time. Through the first corner, and they're travelling through there 100 mile an hour through the first part, 120 mile an hour and more as he exits through the second part, nice and clean.
Well, it all looks so good when it's in the hands of Nico Hulkenberg. He does really stand out to me as being the driver of the series so far into turn 3. He doesn't go out to the edge of the curve. He doesn't need to do that. He has to get the car at a 100th of a second up. That's a 100th of a second up on the time of Team GBR, Robbie Carr's time. And let's see what happens here. Nico Hulkenberg comes down turn 6. Watch to see whether he gets it neat and tidy and keeps it there. Yes, he does. That's what you need to do. Don't let the car run to out the middle of the road or to the left. That just destroys the exit coming out of turn 7. It's
looking very smooth at the moment. We're not looking at a driver who's really battling the car, but he's only a fraction up on the time that Great Britain have set on aggregate. So will it be enough, in fact, for Germany to retake the top spot? Great Britain might hold on here, and Robbie Carr waiting still to come out on track.
So here we see Nico Hulkenberg coming through turn 10, then straightens the car out as much as he can through 11. He's not using the track that he used in the first run, but maybe he doesn't feel he needs to do that. Germany go 1:16.8959.
He's gone fastest. Germany goes quickest by a fraction.
Switzerland, Neil Yarny comes out of turn 11, and you can see how hard he was working on the steering wheel.
Let's see where this puts Switzerland. Does it move them up? No, 10th. They're struggling today.
Disappointing, 1:17.5.
The nation that was on pole last time in Malaysia really not getting to grips at all with this Sentul track.
Well, again, we've seen lockups, and Switzerland has been one of those nations that has been locking up. That was into turn 8. He dragged that in, see it inside the unloaded wheel. Bleekemolen, and he gets very close indeed to going off the edge of the track for the Netherlands. And Bleekemolen and the Netherlands, they are 10th one, 17.3.
Yeah, he moved up 1 place there. He's moved ahead of Switzerland, courtesy of that performance. Germany still top dog, but Great Britain, we're waiting to see them come out in this third qualifying segment. There's Team China. Now, was he overtaking another car there?
Yes, he was. That was Mexico.
Yeah, now I think he may have lost a bit of time there because he had to run onto the dirty bit of track, so that won't help him at all. And we're still waiting. France just coming out onto track now. Still waiting to see Great Britain out, though.
At just 2.5 minutes or thereabouts before this session comes to an end. And that was a disappointment because for China and Hu Ping-tong, I don't think it was anything intentional with Mexico. He just happened to catch Mexico in the middle of turns 3 and 4 when Mexico were on their out lap and China was on its flying lap.
China are currently down in 12th position, some 1.5 seconds down on aggregate. This could be an improvement, therefore, because the split showed he was about a second down on aggregate. They might be able to squeeze into the top 10 if he can just get the latter part of the lap together here. Looks pretty good. But will it be enough for China to get into the top 10? He's 12th at the moment. Cross the line he goes. Nope, he stays in 12th place. A 1:17.9, so not his best lap at all there.
No, that's the slowest of his 3 runs, but maybe one could justifiably say that he did get held up and he lost the best part of half a second coming out of turn 4. As you look at New Zealand's Johnny Reid. Johnny Reid coming up. About to go through turns 8.
Look at the split time.
Unbelievable, 3/4 of a second.
3/4 of a second up on Team Germany on aggregate, and he's putting together a real quick lap. Now, he was fast on his used tyres. Johnny Reid, who's proving to be one of the stars of qualifying of A1GP this year. He's been on the front row on 2 occasions already this season. He's had 1 pole position, but this is a fast lap for Johnny Reid, and Team New Zealand, no, they don't do it. 3rd quickest. He lost time on that last segment.
16.9. Where that time went from, I do not know, because nothing we saw on screen looked particularly damaging to his run. As we go back to Salvador Duran, Team Mexico. Salvador Duran was the man, and he's up 0.3 of a second. So Salvador Duran is capable of putting his car in the front row of the grid. Is he capable of beating Germany? New Zealand lost all that time in this final segment. So easy to overrun into turns 10, and then as you get on the power, the back end of the car, always wanting to swap ends with the front. And look at the work. You can see Duran's hands. Part of that's just a feedback through the steering wheel. Part of it are minute corrections.
Across the line he goes. It's 5th. So the latter part of the lap doesn't seem to be as quick as it was earlier on.
Well, I think the teams have clocked that one. And certainly in the case of New Zealand, they look like a shoo-in for the provisional pole at the end of the 3rd segment, and they're 3rd quickest behind Team GBR. We're waiting to see what Robbie Carr and Team GBR do.
And Team France as well. Let's keep an eye on Nicolas Lapierre. He's a major threat here for pole position still. So with the checker flag coming out in a few seconds' time, he's going to complete the lap. This could bounce him back up. He's currently 7th quickest is Lapierre, but with one of the fastest laps of the day so far. Where does this put him?
Stays 7th.
Well, that's surprising. Only a 17.3 from Nico that time, and not enough to move him up the order. Germany stay on top currently, but Great Britain is on track currently, and Great Britain's on a very quick lap here. Great Britain really does have a chance to retake the initiative. He's up on the split times, and Robbie Carr is going to try and take pole position again, as he did last season. Let's see if it's enough to go ahead of Germany. Cross the line he goes. It's not.
Again in that final segment. Whatever's happened, whether it's the weather, whether the sun's out there, or whether the clouds are out, but clearly all the work that you do in segment 1, or sector 1, sector 2, is being negated. Whatever's happening up at that part of racetrack, it's drifting away. You've seen 3 cars up on time before they get into sector 3, and by the time they come out of it, it's all gone.
Yeah, that's right, but the gap between 1st and 2nd, Germany and Great Britain, is 69 thousandths of a second over 2 laps. Let's not forget, that's not over 1 lap, that's over their 2 best laps combined. Remarkably close. Mexico back into the pit. So let's just quickly run through it. It's Germany, Great Britain, New Zealand, USA 4th, they're still up there. 5th place for Mexico, South Africa 6th, France 7th, Australia 8th, then Canada 9th, and the Netherlands 10th. Switzerland now down in 11th place ahead of the Czech Republic, China. Malaysia's popped up to 14th, Indonesia 15th, Ireland 16th, and then Italy, India, Brazil, Lebanon, and Pakistan. There's the man who is setting the pace so far. Could this be the first pole position for the nation that leads in the points? They're on 37 points, remember, compared to Great Britain on 31 points, and the battle is between those 2 nations here in qualifying. Currently it's Germany ahead of Great Britain, but only by 69 thousandths of a second. Great.
Leading in pole from Robbie Carr in 2nd spot, Johnny Reid of New Zealand. He's impressing in that car at the moment. He's in 3rd, and Philip Keebler of the USA in 4th. Session 4 just to get underway any moment now. John Watson and Ben Edwards will take you through it. Can Robbie regain pole?
Little adjustments being made still to the German car, despite the fact that he's quickest.
No, they adjust that car all the time. The car turns up from the moment it's on a racetrack to the moment it leaves the racetrack on a Sunday evening. There's constant work going on, and that's part of what Germany have been doing. And of course, New Zealand are doing the same thing. They share the same engineering and they share technology. One will go out with one setup on Friday, the other will do something diametrically opposite, and they work towards the middle, and that's how they end up being, well, quickest currently and 3rd quickest with New Zealand.
Yeah, they're going very, very well at the moment. Team USA, lovely to see the smiles down there, because they're in top form here today, and Phil is usually a fairly quiet sort of character, but you can see he's enjoying himself in qualifying today.
Well, Phil's one of these guys that really, if you walk past him on a racetrack, you would never imagine he's a race driver. You look at other drivers, and they look like racing drivers, but Phil's very, very self-effacing, and he just gets into the car. He does all this talking from the cockpit.
New tyres for Alan van der Merwe. In fact, he didn't go out in that third segment there. He decided not to bother on the old tyres, so that was probably quite intelligent from Alan van der Merwe. He didn't have anything to prove on the old tyres, and in a way you can almost lose yourself, presumably, John. You go out on the tyres that have less grip, and then you sort of maybe readjust your style a bit.
I think there's always the danger when you've done a run on a new tyre, then you do a second run on a used tyre, you lose maybe, well, what's this all about? The car's not right. You start to say, I want to make a change here or there. And I mean, what South Africa have done may well prove to be a good move. Alan van der Merwe has got a 16.9 in the bin already, so he's potentially capable of challenging anybody, certainly Mexico, possibly the USA, because they're all around that 1 minute 16.9 zone.
It's great. It is really the classic A1GP qualifying system coming in here, where it's so unpredictable, and although we've got Germany, Great Britain, New Zealand, USA and Mexico at the moment, it could be quite different by the end of this session. For Great Britain, they only need to find a little bit from their very best so far to retake that pole position. But can they do it? That's the question. Canada choosing to come out pretty early. Brazil already out there on a hot lap, and that's going to hurt Brazil hugely.
And that's naughty. Sean McIntosh should have used his mirrors. He's come out of the pit lane, and that was wrong. He should have allowed Brazil to go through. He's chosen not to do that, and I think that will cause, again, unnecessary and maybe selfish, in my opinion, to see Sean McIntosh doing something like that when he's on an out lap.
That's right, Brazil on a flying lap there and held up by Canada that's coming out of the pits, and you can see Canada's determined to stay in front. I don't really understand why McIntosh has done that, and now he moves out of the way.
Well, I mean, I think that somebody will say something to Sean McIntosh, because that was up to Dr. Rocha locks up, he's angry, he's frustrated. Watch again what happens. Comes out of the pits. He does not yield the corner. He should have yielded the corner. He should have let the car that's on the flying lap take. He will say, oh, I thought he was coming in. I didn't know he was on a flying lap. Well,
presumably he may not even have seen him. As he came down the pit exit, he might have.
That is no excuse. You've got mirrors on your car, you've got a team talking to you on the radio, they know full well what is going on, and I'm disappointed to see Sean McIntosh being so inconsiderate, and normally a man who is far from it. He's the opposite, one of the nicest people you could meet, but that in my opinion was a wrong move, a wrong judgment from Team Canada.
So South Africa now on a hot lap. Let's see what Alan van der Merwe can do. His first ever qualifying session in A1GP, and I say he's done a good job so far. He's currently running in 6th place, and he's got a good lap going here. You could see the split times were up, but remember, we saw this a few times in that last segment where they were quick on the first half of the lap, but the second half of the lap, the time seemed to disappear.
Alan van der Merwe, very precise the way he places the car in a corner. Some drivers are not as precise as van der Merwe for Team South Africa is. Will that preciseness translate into an improvement in position or lap time? Well, a 1:17.0 is the second best lap. His best was a 16.9, so unlikely we're going to see any improvement in position from that current 6th position, 3rd on the grid. Just to note that Pakistan, and interesting, Nur Ali, all the way through these 4 sessions, has found improvement, ending up with a 1:20.319. That's Pakistan's best individual lap over the weekend, so the progress is coming.
New tyres for Team Germany as we prepare to see him come back out to defend pole position. Canada on their hot lap now, having had that little big look up there on the right front. He gets into the corner, but that surely costs him a few thousandths, and it's all about thousandths of a second here at Sentul.
So makes the drive out of the corner, changing up to 4th gear on the exits, comes across start-finish line. Canada 1:17.367, keeps him in 9th place, and he may end up dropping as a consequence.
Yeah, 9th place for Canada, and that's not really what they wanted. They would have looked to have been in the top 6 at least, flat spotting the right front there as he came into the last couple of right-handers. So no big improvement for Canada. Waiting to see New Zealand on track as well. Johnny Reid certainly got the potential here to snatch pole position in the last moments of qualifying if he really puts together a lap. But what is happening at the top end of the circuit, because we've got people improving on that first section, but they can't seem to sustain it over the last section for whatever reason.
Well, it's just down to track surface, it's down to ambient temperature, and it's down to the fact that coming up to the end of a lap, the new tyre clearly it's showing its best in the first 2 sectors. One of the problems that drivers are going to contend with is on their out lap, Do they go at maximum attack, or do they back off and save the tyre until almost the last moment as you enter turn 10? And I think the danger is if you leave it too late, then you mightn't get the best of the tyre in that first half. But clearly those that have been doing differently have had the best of the tyre in the first two segments, but paid the penalty in that final segment. So it's a question of choices. How are you going to look at it? What are you going to do?
Unrivaled access into the pit garages in A1GP. We're right with the drivers as they psych themselves up and prepare to go out for the final run of qualifying. And it's a tense time for the driver, but it's also an exciting time to put everything on the line, if you like, for that one flying lap.
Well, in many ways, for a racing driver, this is the ultimate that he can seek, to go out in a qualifying session, a single flying lap, the car optimised for speed, but principally on new rubber. The maximum grip you can get from a set of tyres is when they're in yours. Basil Shaban, and we can see a massive flat spot for Lebanon as Basil, maybe there's that right foot and that nasty toe that he's got. He just doesn't have quite the feel that we'd expect Basil Shaban for Lebanon to have.
So I doubt if he's going to improve on his lap time. He's currently 20th ahead of Pakistan.
That's a good time, a 19.002. It is fractionally his best of the 4 runs.
So a good effort there from Basil, but it doesn't improve his position. He ends up just behind Brazil. Brazil, of course, who lost out, being held up by Canada on that last lap. New Zealand on track, though, and the Black Beauty, can it end up on the front row again? It's been on the front row twice this year. Mexico's been on the front row twice. Both nations are still in the hunt here for a front row starting position, but Robbie Carr currently is the holder of second place, and he wants that or one better. Pole position here would suit him fine.
So let's look and see what Salvador Duran of Mexico runs it very wide coming out of turn 1. We've seen a couple of cars get right on that curb and flirt with the grass on the outside, but Salvador Duran keeps it all together. Now the run down into turn 3 ahead of China. Looks like China may well be on their way out to do a lap, so hope that mirrors on that China car are working. Yeah, he does. He gets out of the way.
Good job there, and the split time again good for Mexico on the aggregate that Germany set in their 2 best laps so far. But is it going to go away from him in the second half of the lap, as we've seen on several occasions just recently? Right on board. You're watching the Mexican at work at the wheel here. He can be quite a physical driver, but it's looking quite smooth.
Well, it's all that Latin fire and temperament. You know, he's a driver he's exciting to watch. You know, he's a very nice guy.
4/10 up at the second split, but none of them have been quick through this section in the last few laps.
And this is just the question of you use your tyres in the first part of the lap or you save it for the last part of the lap. We won't know until this lap is complete. Salvador Duran comes across start-finish line, currently in 5th place. Will he see any improvement?
Here comes Team Mexico. Are they going to move up to 3rd? It's a good improvement.
And 16.763, and that goes with his 1:16.911, and that's a handy couple of laps to have. That could see Mexico consolidate on the second row of the grid.
Good effort that from Salvador Duran when the pressure was on. He's delivered not a front row starting position, but he is second row. Germany out, but New Zealand is on a hot lap now. New Zealand currently 4th. Mexico ahead of them now, but Johnny Reid has been on the front row twice this year and he's on a massive lap. But again, will he manage to maintain that advantage?
Well, he's got 2 1:16.9s already in the bin. Good enough to see him in 4th place. If he can find another 10th or so of a second, he could be on the front row of the grid, displacing Team GBR, and that is until Robbie Carr gets back on racetrack.
New Zealand could be heading for pole position here. A very fast first 2 sectors, but has he done enough on the final? Yes, he has. New Zealand takes pole.
1:16.510, the fastest individual lap of any driver or nation this weekend.
France on track as well. Now, what can Nicolas Lapierre do? He needs something special, but he's got one very quick lap in the book. That was from the first segment of qualifying. If he could put in a lap similar to New Zealand, he could jump from 7th to perhaps 2nd, maybe even 1st, although that's asking a huge amount. But surely a chance here for France to gain a few places from 7th, which is where they are currently, and he's coming up towards the second sector point. But it's not that quick.
No, he's 4/10 of a second down. He has got a 1:16, a 16.8. He needs to match that on this run, but according to the timing and scoring, we're not going to see it. Nevertheless, Team France down in 7th place. Anywhere in the low, or sorry, the 1:16 will be good enough to elevate him up maybe 2 more places.
Let's see what it is then for Team France, the nation that dominated the first season of A1GP. He goes 6th. It's not really what you would expect, particularly the sort of performance he's been showing this weekend.
Germany sliding it into turn 3. Now that's Nico Hulkenberg, the first time we've seen him get a car out of shape. He just clipped the grass in the exit of turn 3 as he made his cut back into turn 4. Goes past China, good use of mirrors by China, and lets Nico Hulkenberg now get into turn 6, keeps the car, using the curb, doesn't overrun the car, doesn't try to overdrive the car. Let's look again and see, well, the back end skipped out. Maybe you can shave a tenth of a second off your lap for that little bit of exuberance. So all the way now back up to these turns 8 and 9.
2/10 of a second down on the joint split set by New Zealand. I think it may not be quick enough unless he does something truly mighty through the last couple of corners, and this is where it's been harder to make the time up. He does lock a break, and surely it's getting a bit too ragged now. Currently he's second quickest. That second place could still be under threat from Great Britain, remember. I'm not sure this is enough to regain pole position.
No, it's not.
He stays in second place with a 1:16.8. Second position. We've got a repeat front row that we had in the Czech Republic at the moment. But what about Great Britain? Great Britain could change it. So, Robbie Carr on circuit at the moment, and Great Britain looking to move up from third position, if possible, right out to the edge of the curb. And he's attacking that time that New Zealand has set and that Germany have shown as well. This was a moment ago, and he got very, very wide.
Oh, he did. Now, that's a big mistake. And he's blown it, I would say, for that bit of overdriving. Robbie Carr under pressure. Desperate once again to get a pole position here for the sprint. Locks it up big time, and Robbie really, now I think he's overcompensating. He's trying to drive the car too hard. And if he can drag a time out that sees him improve up onto the front row of the grid, well, that will have been a surprise to us all. He does!
Second fastest.
1:16.514, second fastest individual lap in spite of all those errors. Now, what would he have done if he hadn't done so?
A 16.5, as you say, only a few thousand slower than the fastest lap of the day set by New Zealand. A great lap from Robbie Carr, despite the odd little errors. As you say, it could have been maybe just a fraction quicker without the slight lockup, but it didn't lose him much time. New Zealand fastest, Great Britain second, Germany third, Mexico fourth.
I'm on board with Alex Young, Team Malaysia. They've been struggling all weekend. They've never managed to get this car doing what we know it's capable of doing, and that is being very quick. So Alex Young all the way down in 16th place. His best time so far is this 1:17.6. He also didn't run in second qualifying, consolidating, saving those tires. Alex Young, unaccustomed to starting 16th. He jumps up to 13th, best lap, 1:17.3.
Yeah, but that's still disappointing. Outside the top 10, he's behind China's new man, Ho Ping Tung, so that's a bit of a surprise. China have gone well in qualifying with their new boy. He's 12th on the grid, but Alex Young will start 13th, much further down than he would have expected or wanted. So they've got work to do in the races. We're watching the Czech Republic. They're 14th, so they're just one behind Malaysia. So even that 13th place might still be under threat for Alex Young if Jarek Yanis, sliding the car there, can gain a bit more pace on this one.
Not looking so good through 6, and again the exit of 7. They had to make an adjustment on the steering wheel to get the car pointed in the right direction. Now up into turn 8, slightly more open on the two of these S's, and again you've got to be careful getting the car in slightly too early, not really getting the attitude of the car in the corner he needed.
It's going to be quite close, this, to what Malaysia did, so he might be able to bump Malaysia at one place if he can just get this last little section together here. Currently in 14th place. Is he going to nip past Malaysia, perhaps put China under pressure, or is he going to stay where he was, cross the line? No, he doesn't manage it, stays in 14th place, but he's still ahead of Italy and India.
So we're still waiting for USA, who are out on a lap. This is Team USA, Phil Keebler. Currently, he's midway around the lap, so what is the split time?
Let's have a look. It looks pretty neat and tidy at the moment. Keep an eye on it. There's the second split time coming up. Keeps it straight. Doesn't get too much oversteer out of that section of the lap, but it's not going to be enough. 3/10 down. Where would that put him? It would keep him probably...
And he potentially could move up one place, but it's a question of whether he can get through these final corners, particularly this we're coming up to now, the two part of turn 10, and then the straightening out turn 11, and that's really where you have to rely and hope that you've got some life left in this new set of A1 Cooper tyres.
So, currently in 5th place, Team USA looking to gain a place or two as they cross the line, but no, they stay in 5th position, but it's still their best qualifying performance of the season so far. Phil Keebler will be happy with that. New Zealand take pole position. It's their second pole position of the season. They become the first nation in Series 2 to have taken 2 poles, and a rather wry look from Nico Hulkenberg. Not quite fast enough today, Team Germany. They end up 3rd quickest behind Great Britain. It's going to be a second row start for them. Robbie Carr dragged out a lap at the end there, and despite the odd little lock-up, the odd little moment, that was a brave drive by Robbie Carr, and he's ended up just 34 thousandths of a second slower than New Zealand over 2 time laps. He couldn't be much closer than that, and he'll be starting second on the grid as Great Britain still looking for their first victory in A1GP.
For Robbie Carr, I mean, had he not made those little errors, one coming out of turn 4 and then a little bit further on the track into turn 10, clearly the pace that he had on that lap was sufficient to take that pole position and to do it 2 in a row. But Robbie knows that he's got a car which is, I think, a better race car than he had in the first years of A1GP. He did battle a lot with a car that was too critical to drive, and it didn't turn out to be the quickest of race cars. It was quick in a single lap, but not the quickest race car.
So New Zealand end up on top here from Great Britain, Germany, Mexico, the USA, Australia 6th ahead of France, then South Africa in 8th place, Canada 9th and 10th for the Netherlands, then Switzerland, China, Malaysia, Czech Republic, Italy, India, Indonesia, Ireland, Brazil, Lebanon and Pakistan.
The Sentul International Circuit in Indonesia, the stage this weekend for A1GP, and this is how it finished in qualifying. Johnny Reid of New Zealand taking pole, Robbie Carr in second for Team GBR. He also starts on the front row of the grid. Nico Hulkenberg in third for Team Germany. For Team Mexico, Salvador Duran in fourth, and Philip Keebler of the USA in fifth. The defending champions, France, currently lying in 7th spot. John Watson's been catching up with 1, 2 and 3 on the grid for the sprint. He started by asking Johnny Reid what he made of qualifying today.
Yeah, it doesn't get any closer than that. I'm thrilled to be on pole position.
Second one of the year.
Yeah, that's right. We missed out. It was close at Sepang as well, but you know, we've proved to be a front runner, so I'm happy.
Now tell me about the circuit, because we saw in some of the segments that segment 3 was a segment where nobody could maintain the improvements they put in 1 and 2. What was the problem in segment 3?
Well, in free practice, the circuit was breaking up. It was actually melting there. It's so hot here. As you can see, I'm sweating. But yeah, I think it was just a matter of not making mistakes and keeping it clean. But you've got to compromise that with pushing to the maximum.
Okay, well, look, you know, we had pole position in Brno alongside Team Germany, Nico Hulkenberg. Wasn't the best of starts. You got Robbie Carr, Team GBR alongside. You get on with Robbie, by the way. Is he a mate or is he just another competitor?
Oh well, no, we're good friends off the track, but on the circuit, of course, we'll be doing the best for our country.
You're both going to get through turn 1 this time.
Oh, definitely. That's you got to get through turn 1 to win the race, don't you?
Listen, you make sure that Sauvignon Blanc's on ice for us later on. Robbie Carr, Team GBR, you could have had pole position on that last run. You were quick everywhere, but you made a couple of little, what do you want to call them, errors or drop-offs?
Yeah,
anyway, explain to us what went wrong.
No, in turn 3 we had a good run and just got on the power. And as I caught the curb, it just lost a little bit of grip and just ran us out onto the grass, which was really annoying. But Johnny did a good job. It was all about keeping it really consistent out there, but obviously pushing to the limit. You
were pole man here last year, and it didn't do you any good. You got beaten by France. You're starting alongside Johnny on the left-hand side of the track for the rolling start. Do you think that's an advantage?
I wouldn't say it's an advantage, but it's definitely not a disadvantage. Going into the first corner, though, you've got a cleaner line, so we'll see what happens. France couldn't get past me in the first corner, but it gave him a better run up to the second.
Now, last year you had a very quick car in a single lap, but not necessarily the best race car. How much better a race car have you got this year?
Oh, it's definitely going to be consistent this year. We're going to have a really strong race. Even on old tyres in the qualifying then, we could do a lap time. And so we've definitely got the car there, and we've just got to see what happens in the race.
Thank you, Robbie. Well, Nico Hulkenberg, Team Germany. Nico, we thought that you were going to be the man alongside Team New Zealand that was going to be in the front row of the grid. It didn't happen, Nico. What went wrong?
Yeah, in the last run in qualifying 4, I had a little mistake into turn 4, a bit too quick, and then I shifted down to second gear, and then I got into an oversteer and I couldn't get the apex. I was a little bit too late on power, and I lost 1 or 2 tenths there.
So we noticed in the pits your team were working on your car all the way through those 4 qualifying segments, making minute adjustments. What's that all about?
Again, pardon?
Making a lot of adjustments to your car between all the qualifying segments. What were you doing? What were you adjusting on the car all the time?
Well, we are trying to get the car perfect, and I always had some little tiny things which were not perfect, and we were trying to sort that out.
Okay, Nico, just Johnny, on that theme, I mean, we didn't see you making all these changes to your car. Why? Maybe you didn't do that, but Nico did.
Yeah, we made some changes, definitely. You always find an imbalance after free practice when you go out on new rubber, so yeah, we made some minor adjustments and eventually got it right qualifying 4.
Okay, well, guys, just look round behind you and skyward. What do you see? Big black clouds. Are you prepared for this tomorrow? Maybe the sprint race will be clean, but for another wet feature race, how do you look forward to that, Johnny?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I've done a lot of racing in the wet in Japan this year. We just got to get the car to accommodate that.
Robbie, wet or dry, what do you want?
I don't mind what it is, just bring it on.
We know what Nico wants. He was fantastic in the rain. Do you want more rain, Nico?
For me, both is okay. The situation comes as it comes, and we have to make the best out of it.
Well, gentlemen, have a great day tomorrow. It's going to be stunning racing. It's very close, and well, let's get back upstairs to the commentary booth.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.